I think it was. I mean, again, I think we talked about it before, but it's incredibly Neil Gaiman. Like, it is incredibly Neil Gaiman in its design, in its style. Like, I didn't think it was anything super unique. If you hadn't already seen American God, if you hadn't seen little bits and pieces of Lucifer, even though that's a comedic buddy cop show, it still played into it that element of the slow movement, gods, ethereal beings, uh, um, the psychological pressures that go along with ruling a falling kingdom. Even even reminded me from 2004 2005 Constantine with Keanu Reeves, and it's that same beat by rhythm. Just you don't have the in this situation you didn't have the interruption of Warner Brothers being involved. But like, I thought it was good. I thought it was philosophically interesting. I thought the episodes were well contained. You guys spoke to about it where it was like there were some characters you thought were going to be continuing on, like Constantine's daughter, that just never existed again afterwards. There were stories where you were like, that were really like the restaurant story was really uniquely interesting. That almost had nothing to do with the Sandman and was just everything about what was going on as long as he had that road. I loved that because there were so many layers to be able to take advantage of and that concept of transparency. And then you have the situations like the Vortex that placate over 2 episodes. It ends one episode, obviously, with the Corinthian, but then you get this continuation of the girl and the boy. Though I feel like that one also, I wish it had been maybe explored a little bit more on like the significance. I mean, I guess they did, but like the significance of desires impregnating or basically raping a sleeping woman, and all that. So it was just like there was so much to take. So I did enjoy the episodicness. It was just very American God. Like, it's one of those shows where you come hard on the first season and it's really tough to be able to come back on the second. Like, unless we're exploring more characters like the immortal guy now, or seeing what other nightmares and dreams are trying to find their place and rectify. I don't know how you can make a second season out of that show, and outside of it making it like an anthology series. Like,
so I think there's several books, and I think each episode is like a book or two, or sometimes a book span. A book spans more than one episode in this show. So I think we could probably have a few seasons of this until we get to, I think, the Wait.
Yeah, there's plenty of source material to draw from what I understand.
Yeah.
But I don't, I can't I felt differently about the series than you do. But you're right in that saying either you get it or you don't, right? So Julie, my wife, said to me, I said, "Oh, you want to see the Sandman?" She goes, "I don't like Neil Gaiman." And there's nowhere you can go after that, right? If you don't like Neil Gaiman, you don't like it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
his style. It's that's immediately.
Yeah. He plays in that sandbox that's distinctly his. But people who love Sandman, and I'm surprised. I've done a little bit of stuff on YouTube and looked around, and there are red hot Sandman fans out there who put down their whole careers. I'm talking about people in the film and the comic industry who all say Sandman brought me round. Sandman was my inspiration, and they're like basically going. I think almost every major person I've seen from Kevin Smith has said it. So anyway, it's obviously very influential, and he's made an impact.
I'll be honest. It might have been because of the fact I just don't remember any of the Sandman books. Like, maybe when did they start coming out? Like in the mid 90s?
87.
87. So
maybe, late 80s, yeah.
So maybe it was just one of those that just they passed by my train of sight, because until the show came out, which is one of the reasons why I wasn't terribly interested in the show, but I was like, man, there's a lot of Sandman fans that are talking like that talk about how accurate it is to the book. And I'm like, when did this book come out? But I was also in the same guise as Game of Thrones. I didn't know much about Game of Thrones prior to. I guess I was too much into C.S. Lewis and whatever the dude that made Lord of the Rings.
Tolkien.
Tolkien, yeah. Like maybe that was so much more in my line of sight.
But you can't keep up with everything. You can't keep up with everything.
Yeah. And besides, Sandman was really low key in the sense like it's not mainstream because it's not like your superhero, like your usual superhero comic book, and not a lot of like young people get it because it delves too much, so much into philosophy and religion and stories that some people might even say are not suitable for young people. So maybe
it was
that's
the
why.
90s. Like that means nothing. Like this is the same time period that Watchmen came out as well too.
300 and
right.
Mind you, I haven't seen those either.
the comic books, though.
Yeah. No, they're very, very influential.
But I guess that's to it. So but needless to say, I did enjoy this series, and I look forward to it. And even the last episode split, which was really interesting. I really liked the cat one, but I really loved the one with the muse more because of how really dark it was. Like it was super dark. Like I didn't realize how much of it was just like, they were just constantly raping this sprite. In essence.
I know.
And it's just like,
there's some very like that episode in the you talked about that episode in the what's his name in the restaurant. That was pretty. That
was intense.
And then what you said about episode 11 with the muse and stuff, how they were just
Calliope.
It's and that's what's interesting is every once in a while human beings manage to grab their hands on these beings and can suppress them. That's how the whole series starts. They capture what's his face. They catch a Sandman and they just shove him into a glass. Just like, hang on, are these gods? That's a lot of my confusion in the first couple episodes. Is what are the rules here? And then you just kind of you sink into it and you find your way through. But it's. I've gone back and looked at all the different, what are they called? The beings, like, how he's one of 7.
Yeah, the endlesses.
So I'd gone back. I had to go look at that and figure out who's what and who's where because I knew they were kind of there. But, they had the Cain and Abel episode. That threw me.
I was about to be like, the Cain and Abel one, that one was wild. This man said, we kill Abel all the time. And Abel just rises back from the dead. I'm like, man, always doing your little twist of the Judeo-Christian into.
And I didn't just understand where those guys sat. Were they beings? Were they gods? Did they live on another plane? Did they live on Earth?
I think that from what I'm taking it, I think that they were they're an ethereal plane. They're immortal because they're first being. Like they're supposed to be the split. But that's where I'm just like, it goes into the Neil Gaiman concept of weaving in Judeo-Christian with Nordic, with that. And it's always about how do we intertwine the elements of all gods, of all religions, but try and be able to show as to what they go. Because you can't, how do you have the devil, but then they mention a god, a overall superior being, but without ever showing. But then you have all these endlesses that are just the individual characteristics of core humanity that exist. That only exist if they're believed in as well too.
Let's remind our friends to please click on the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you know when we have new videos out.
Subscribe!
Subscribe!
Die.